This is White Plains Week, the weekly roundup of White Plains, Westchester, and world news. With John Bailey, editor and publisher of the daily internet newspaper White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, WPCNR.com. Jim Benerofe, editor and publisher of SuburbanStreet.com and WhitePlains.com. White Plains Week, what's happening, who are the newsmakers, what's in store for the future. The views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the participants. White Plains Week is presented on Optimum Cable Channel 76, Verizon Fios Channel 45, and on the internet at whiteplainsweek.com, youtube.com, and wpcommunitymedia.org. Now, White Plains Week.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. and Ms. White Plains, Westchester, and the world. John Bailey, the Citizen Net Reporter, with Jim Benerofe, the Dean of Journalism in White Plains, New York, USA. And tonight, we have another interesting news week. Jim, the headlines, please.
Now the headlines for the week of September 20th, 2019. White Plains Library opens its new plaza, and it is spectacular. Governor Cuomo bans e-cigarettes statewide. I'll weigh in on the debate and its aftermath. County legislator passes amendments to displaced workers law. 55 Bank Street, the Continuum, second building begins to rise. Westchester County approves 2 consulting firms to write supplements to Westchester County Airport Master Plan. Press releases promises no expansion of operations expected. Cokie Roberts, the ceiling smasher, pioneer, newscaster, and commentator, dies. Sander Van Oker, hard-hitting NBC newsman, the man Reuven Frank, NBC News boss, called the best political reporter I've ever worked with, dies at 91. And fall is in the air, maybe.
Thank you, Jim. And now we go to the White Plains Week video newsreel. And of course, that is the White Plains Library, which had a big opening this past Saturday. The mayor was there, about 100 people were there, according to eyewitnesses. And let's take a look at it. Here's some video. And Jim, this is the outside of the plaza, and we're looking down Martin Luther King Boulevard there. And there you see the gardens, great new lighting, and great paving too, if you can see that there. And then we will switch to another view. This is the front of the library. And as you can see, it's a very inviting place, and there were even some folks sitting and reading in the early evening hours last night. Check that out. And then over here, we take a look at a fantastic plaza, and we're going to walk down it. So what did you think of the opening?
I thought it was great.
Yeah.
I'm on the Library Board Foundation, so obviously
Yeah.
I liked it.
Right.
I think it's a terrific addition, and I think that area had long needed to have something besides plain concrete.
Yes.
And this does the trick. One of the more interesting things, somebody was there from, I believe I've got this name correct.
Yeah.
And they spoke, pollinators of White Plains, and they were talking about planting
Concert area there.
Yeah, they were talking about planting native vegetation as much as possible in White Plains, and they're going to have programs on that at the plaza.
There are some gardens with seats you can sit on.
Yeah,
and this takes you around by the county courthouse, which we should see in a moment. It's a long walk around until you get back to our first video. sorry about the walkthrough here, ladies and gentlemen, but think of it as a Parisian news film. Lots of cinema verite, and there we see the magnificent Westchester County Courthouse overlooking it. It really even dresses that building up. And this whole area behind the library is now highly useful as a space for all sorts of demonstrations, perhaps. And I was really impressed. I mean, this is really a showplace plaza, in my opinion. And let's see, it cost $6 million, and it will certainly be an attraction for, I mean, it's also a very good place to make out. Little tip there. But anyway, I would suggest you check it out and enjoy it yourself. And the gardens that we're taking a look at here are going to be planted, and who knows what they're going to plant there, but I'm sure they'll be very nice.
I think that they're going to plant all native plants.
That all native plants to the area?
Yes.
That would be nice. White Plains plants only. Right, exactly. But anyway, congratulations for that opening. And how long did it take? I think it was about a year.
To build it?
Yeah.
Oh, geez, I don't remember when they started. To me, it took a long time.
Yeah. Well, it always takes a long. Everything takes a long time in White Plains. Yeah. You know, it's just we are very careful. You know, we are, and I don't mean that as a joke either. Okay. Big story today. Governor Cuomo this week came down very hard on vapors, the people who sell vaping pipes and devices, and he also banned e-cigarettes with flavors. He pointed out that 25% of the high school population now vapes. It's just an amazing exponential growth since White Plains opened its first vape store a few years ago. Now, I did an interview with them to figure out what they did, and they had originally positioned vape as a way to cut down on nicotine intake. Now, what intrigued me about it is the exact opposite has happened. Do you have some comments on the vaping?
First of all, I mean, I think Cuomo is absolutely going in the right direction.
Yes.
It is absolutely, there's something like 400 or 500 medical incidents that have occurred, and I don't know how many deaths.
8 so far.
You know, and we know the history of tobacco, period, and the death rate from that. Why are we doing this? Because some tobacco company wants to make money, that's all. Maybe it will help people stop smoking. The people I've known that have stopped smoking have done it in other ways, and I know I'm very knowledgeable about tobacco. And you know, I don't think anything that introduces smoke into the human lung is healthy.
Right. In fact, what is happening is people are getting lung infections that doctors are shocked at, and they were vapors. Yeah, and it's just something that needs to be stopped. But the FDA approved this stuff, did they not? I think they did.
I guess.
Yeah, somebody had to approve it. Maybe you think they approved it? Well, they didn't. They didn't think, did they? They didn't think. Now, Jim, last week I did some commentary on the debate, but you did not get a chance because you were on assignment. So here's your shot. What did you think of last week's debate among the Democratic candidates?
Well, I thought that Bernie Sanders looked very tired. His voice was raspy. And, you know, I think I'm the same age as Bernie Sanders, about 4 months
You're not
different.
raspy at all.
Well, that's not my point.
That's what the point.
Yeah, whether I'm raspy or not, I'm not running for president.
That's true.
And
Maybe you should.
No, I shouldn't. I'm too old.
Okay, right.
And age has got to be an open discussion, and they've got to stop running people that are in that age category. I'm sorry, I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah.
They cannot withstand the pressure of the job. And Biden is too old, Trump is too old, and Sanders is too old. It's just ridiculous.
And whoever of those three, should they be elected president, the staff that they have is very important. Where's a Nancy Reagan, for example?
Well, look, you need a leader that's got the pep, the energy, and the know-how to run the show. And, you know, I'm not talking about what their political points of view are. That's not the issue. I'm talking about the fact that they can't make a decision on their own that they're too old to run. You know, it's like you said, why don't I run for president? I'm too old to run.
No, I'm sorry. That was a
can't
feeble attempt at humor.
But the point is, I know that. Okay, and believe me, I've got some great ideas.
Exactly. So, who emerged from that field?
Well, I think that there are a lot of candidates who are not getting the political attention that they need because they're spending so much time talking about these three old white men. And
well, you are right on about that. And then in the commentary that I watched afterwards, they immediately went to a Biden supporter who said it was, you know, really bad taste and that Castro should have been.
I think that was.
That was a terrible piece of news judgment going to him first.
I think that was smart of him, and he was being subtle. What he should really say is, look, Joe Biden, you're too old.
Yeah.
But that would have.
Yeah, he would have blown up at that. But that's the problem.
You know,
he's very touchy. He's very touchy.
Biden, you're too old. And I mean, Sanders, if he got elected, he's going to be in his 80s. How many men are running corporations that are in their 80s? The only exception is what's his name?
The philosopher investor.
Oh well, this is what happens. This is what happens at your age. You forget.
No, we know who. You all know who we mean. I'm sure. But this is a good example. 70s in action.
Yes.
That's right.
And
you see
I have
it right
plenty
here.
of friends, and I watch the same things. And
it's no, but I mean, the
by
debate.
the way,
the
there
debate
are three Republicans that are challenging Trump.
Yeah.
And they're trying to stop them from being primarying in several states. It's Walsh, Weld, and I forget the third person.
That will be interesting. But,
Sanford.
Sanford. Now, getting back to the local level, the county legislature passed amendments to the Displaced Workers Law. They voted in 16-1 to strengthen the law protecting building service workers like cleaning staff and maintenance personnel who face displacement when building ownership or service contracts change hands. That's Benjamin Boykin, the chairman of the board of legislators right there, with Lenore Friedlander on the far left in the blue suit. They spoke and were ballyhooing this law. The changes passed Monday lower the threshold for covered contractors from 15 to 5 employees and extend the transitional employment period from 60 days to 90 days for an attempt to come to some sort of meeting of the minds. Now, there are also expanded requirements for information sharing to ensure that workers know in a timely manner precisely whom they must communicate with at the new employer. Now, the only problem with this law is it does not appear how it gets enforced, because it is unclear, and I asked the county this, well, how is this prosecuted? Are there, and I could not get an answer as to whether it has to be by the individual being dismissed, whether it is the group of individuals can do it, or whether the union has to take up, and whether that is legal, considering the Supreme Court decision. So my problem is, this is the flaws with much county legislation. They put out something that appears very good, but they fail in the penalty phase. You have to hurt to get people to pay attention. So, oh, we're sorry. But meanwhile, they have to go and get other jobs. In fact, that's what has happened to the 32 BJ workers who were dismissed out of the Barker Avenue development after it was taken over. So they have had to get other jobs because they have not been able to enforce the law. So this is a problem with this legislation. The legislators have to think more carefully as to how to penalize these companies that make these mistakes. And what do you think about this law?
Well, you know, without actually reading the law, there's not really too much I can comment on.
Right.
You know,
but this is basically applies to companies that are trying to union bust and pay below minimum wage, which is the reason why they're doing it. Now, the skies are being attacked in White Plains. 55 Bank Street has started, and there's the shot that's, you've been watching progress on this. I believe the crane came in at 55 Bank last week. And what do you think? It's going to be rentals. This is a second building in the Continuum project.
Yeah, it seems to be going up pretty fast.
Right.
I'm assuming that Capelli is building it for them.
We assume that, yes.
But they've done, in just the past week, they've done a tremendous amount of work. You know, I'm sure in about 6 months you'll see it substantially up there.
Right. Well, how long do you think it will take?
I would say 18 to 20 months is.
Yes.
I don't know how many. I don't know how many stories the building is going to be.
I think it's 20.
20.
Yeah.
And what's the?
It's going to match the Continuum, I believe.
Okay, that's 20 also.
Yeah.
Okay.
And another, I don't know how many more apartments, and but be that as it may, it is good to see it's starting to roll,
yes.
And or climb, not roll. And have you gotten any feedback on what's happening in the pit over America Avenue and East Post Road?
Well, actually, something definitely is going on there because they were putting up more stuff out on the sidewalk. I guess there's going to be a certain area of the sidewalk that they're going to block off. So I had seen a couple of guys working towards measuring, I guess, for the foundation. So I think that's moving ahead. I would have to look at the project again, but I think it's on its way.
Well, it's about time. Looks like some purse strings have been loosened up and things are beginning to flow, and the economy is rolling again. That's good to see, but it's important that these things go up so that we can get a handle on how the attraction is with the market on these rentals, who's going to go in and what, and this is very important. Do you know if the first building of the Continuum is completely leased up?
I'm sure that it's not 100% leased. I don't know, it could be 75%, it could be 80%, it could be 70%. I don't know.
But it has been hurt by the fact that you're living next to basically a very unattractive thing while they've been waiting to get going on it. You know, that hurts you. But be that as it may, there's airport in the news today. Yesterday, in a news release, Westchester County said that it had approved 2 vendors to focus on the Westchester County Airport Master Plan Supplement. Just that we needed another supplement. And it's related airport community engagement program. It's lovely how we engage the community who talks about things that they just don't know too much about, but would like. Have you noticed that? It's a trend. But no offense, but folks, you have to realize that airports have a really well-managed system. Otherwise, it wouldn't be safe if it was. Anyway, the vendors are, if I can find it here, let's see, they are, but at any rate, the vendors have been picked. One will look at airport operations and their impacts and develop a new vision for the airport based on greater participation of the public. Well, that's really great. Well, I don't, but what the press release did say, quote, however, there will be no expansion of airport operations. That is an incredible statement. Why are we even doing supplements if you're not going to expand the operations? You know, I do not understand that. I think,
regardless of anything they say, I think eventually the airport will expand.
I agree. It has to be. I mean, it is one of the major problems with Westchester is you just cannot fly out of it at will to places you want to go at will. The airport traffic is limited. You need to take in bigger jets, and I'm sorry, but we got to stop pretending that the county government works for the city of Greenwich, which is right to the east of that airport. I'm sorry, you don't. You work for us. The heck with Greenwich. You know, they have been creating a bad safety situation over there with that runway 29 for some days now, some years. And someday there's going to be a terrible accident there because of the displaced threshold, which the neighbors around that airport don't want correct. And so therefore, look for another couple of years of this potchkeying around with the airport. I mean, but to already say there will be no expansion of airport operations, come on, that's what you have to look at. What would the impact be if we expanded it? I mean, that does not make sense. Or am I just talking to hear myself talk? Perhaps so. But it seems to me that's exactly what you have to study. Expanding the operations and the impact. Now, sad note for the news business. Cokie Roberts, the ceiling smasher, as she was described by the New York Times in its wonderful obituary of her. She is the pioneering newscaster and commentator, passed away at the age of 75. And Ms. Roberts was the daughter of Hale Boggs, the politician, longtime politician, and her mother also replaced Mr. Boggs in Congress after he died. And Ms. Roberts was very familiar with Washington. She got a job out of college at WRC-TV, hosting a program, and then was hired by the NPR, along with Nina Tottenberg and Linda, name escapes me at the moment, and they absolutely put NPR on the map. And then she eventually, Ms. Roberts was then hired by WABC and ABC Network, and earlier in her career, when she lived in Greece, she did reports for CBS radio and television, and it was, we will miss her. I thought she had a great delivery and very Nita Tottenberg said she was a defender of the most decent things a human being can defend. It was a great quote. And Sander Van Oker, the hard-hitting newsman that Reuben Frank called the best political reporter I've ever worked with. Reuben Frank ran NBC News in the 60s. Died at 91. Mr. Van Oker was one of the 4 correspondents in the first television debate in 1960 with pitting Nixon against Kennedy. And he also interviewed Robert F. Kennedy just before Mr. Kennedy was assassinated. He was the NBC White House correspondent. He was gravitas personified. And we really miss these old-time reporters who reported and tried to get the facts as best they could. And now another thing to make mention of, Jim, is the Westchester County-wide shared services is coming up for another public hearing in the Board of Legislators in White Plains on Monday, September 23rd. That's 4 p.m. this coming Monday. And if you want to weigh in and join the conversation about how county towns and cities can share services, go to that, 4 p.m. Monday, September 23rd. And I thought we already did this already, but we haven't had any reports on what these various shared services are being shared already, because it would be nice if we had a follow-up report on that one of these days, wouldn't it? I think, why talk about sharing more if you don't know how the sharing is going now?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's a journalist question, which I hate. They hate those kind of questions. Yeah. Yes. But now, I would also like to point out that fall is here, and it is here because the Thompson Cider Mill has opened up in Ossining. That is Jeff Thompson, who occasionally puts out press releases and does public relations in the county, but this is what he really does.
Apropos of fall is in the air, there's a lot of demonstrations going on all over on all of the continents about climate change. Mm-hmm. And with what's going on in places like Texas, we really should be paying attention to climate change.
Yes.
And that's floods within 2 years.
Yes. That's amazing. It really is. Anyway, this is John Bailey with Jim Benerofe. Good night for White Plains Week.
This has been White Plains Week, news and commentary about White Plains, Westchester, and the world. The views and opinions expressed on this program were solely those of the participants. White Plains Week, produced by White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, and presented on Optimum Cable Channel 76 and Verizon Fios Channel 45. You may view White Plains Week anytime on the internet at whiteplainsweek.com, youtube.com, and wpcommunitymedia.org. For White Plains Week, this is Peter Katz speaking.